I grew up in between, I'd say like Fort Worth, Texas and Abilene, Texas. So like the West and the North. As a kid, I was a writer as a kid. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a poet. I wrote a lot of short stories. But I went to school. I knew that visual art, in a sense, could exist with writing because I was exposed to Jenny Holzer when I was 16. So that was a really, really big change for me. And her piece was, I believe, in the middle of London on a marquee that said, "Protect me from what I want." And that messed me up for weeks. I was like, what are we gonna do? Like, there's a crisis in language, there's a crisis in the arts. And I was in West Texas, so it was like the Bible Belt. And I remember my teacher being like, "Be careful with contemporary art." I was like, what? So there was a lot of tension around the things like I started to be interested in. What is in the studio right now are some new pieces that I call the Tomboy Tejano Blues. And these are specifically referencing a time in adolescence where right before I turned maybe 15, when girlhood was huge. Like girlhood was the epitome of everything that you thought about, everything you represented. It impacted the way you had your relationships in school. It impacted the way you behaved on the street. And so I found myself at odds with a lot of those things that were expected of me in all the worlds, whether it be the world of religion or the world of softball or the world of school or the world of just Mexican culture. So most of the memories are coming from that really tumultuous time. And I don't say tumultuous like it was really extreme, but it was confusing. So the term chones is Spanish for underwear, and that's what my family called them growing up. I noticed that at sleepovers and stuff, I was, you're really exposed to how other people view their bodies and their sort of more intimate areas of their life. And I realized that the words that girls were using to describe their bodies and their undergarments was really shocking to me. It was really oh, I don't like that word, or I feel uncomfortable with that term. And I felt like I was really happy in that moment that my family spoke Spanish, because I was kind of hiding in that language, chones. To me, it didn't have a gender associated with it, because even boys had chones. It was just one term describing both of them. So I started painting them to show sort of the disconnect from other ways that they are depicted. A lot of these icons have multiple meanings and identities. I relate to them in that way. The stars are, of course, representative of Texas. They're representative of excellence as well. But I think of softball when I think of the stars mostly, and I think of my physical body when I was younger. I was really just a stocky kid. I loved to lift weights and pump iron with my softball team. So that really changed the way that I related to certain expectations of femininity and girlness. And I remember thinking that I looked like one, that I looked like a star, and not like a star, not a star of excellence, but just the star shape. So it kind of took on this self-portrait in a way that had nothing to do with excellence, that had more to do with this sort of selfhood I was carrying around with me that had nothing to do with boy or girl. It was just form, and it was just a fluid existence. You can kind of see when you look around the work, there's a lot of deconstructed and sort of warped language. The alphabet is a big part of my work. It eventually goes from letters to shapes, to more recognizable forms. That represents pretty literally that there was some broken language in my life. So there was, I'm fluent in English only, but Spanish was spoken in my home. It wasn't taught to me, but it was spoken in my home. So there was this real big disconnect with the language. I couldn't take full ownership of it. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways that I think specifically marginalized communities feel about the academic world. It's a really, really sensitive topic because there is a desire to succeed in the way that success is usually thought about. But there's also a really strong desire to be very natural and relate more to your roots and succeed in ways that are familiar to you culturally.